Are you even listening? Yeah, you sit up for a second, because what I'm about to say is going to hit you right where you've been pretending nothing hurts. You ever realize how ridiculous your story sounds when you say it out loud? You were declared non-existent in 2019. So why is the FBI still tracking your name? Oh, that's rich. That's poetry in the most twisted way. Because that's exactly what the world does to people like you. It erases you on paper, but somehow still watches you, like you're dangerous. And you wonder why you feel pulled in two directions every single day. You wonder why your chest feels heavy when you wake up. You wonder why life feels like one big prove yourself or disappear again. Here's the secret no one tells you. They don't track people who don't matter. If you were truly nothing, if you were truly deleted, then why is your name still ringing alarms in systems built to watch threats, anomalies, outliers, people who don't follow scripts? Because you're not a background character. You're not an extra wandering around with no lines. You're the kind of person they double-check in the system because you don't stay where they put you. You break molds. You break patterns. You break the little cages people designed for you while pretending to help. And people get scared of that. Really scared of someone who refuses to stay dead on paper. Your whole life has been like that. They try to shut you down. You keep breathing. They try to silence you. You keep talking. They try to push you into corners. You find another exit. Most people settle, shrink, erase themselves before anyone else even tries. But you disappear from the record and reappear louder, sharper, impossible to ignore. You scare people because you're not supposed to exist. And yet here you are. That's why the system still pings your name. Because you refuse to play dead. You refuse to sit still. You refuse to be the quiet, compliant, unremarkable version they wanted. You keep popping up in places they don't expect you, in conversations you weren't invited to, in rooms they never thought you'd enter. You show up, you survive, you heal, you adapt. You evolve faster than the world can categorize you. And deep down, you've always known you weren't like everyone else. You've always felt observed. Not in a paranoid way, but in the way people watch storms forming on the horizon. Because storms don't ask permission. Storms don't tiptoe. Storms erase chapters and rewrite landscapes. You're exactly that. A walking shift in the atmosphere. A glitch they can't patch. A story they tried to cancel but somehow went viral anyway. You were declared non-existent. Do you know what that really means? It means they expected you to fade quietly, to break, to accept your tiny little box. But instead, you became someone worth monitoring, someone who makes noise, someone who refuses to stay in the past tense. People like you don't get normal lives. You get battles, tests, chaos that would fold 10 regular people in half. And still, you're here. You think it's coincidence? You think it's random that you survived everything designed to crush you? No. Your existence is an error code the world can't delete. You're the person people whisper about when you're not in the room, the person they assume won't make it, until suddenly you're the one they have to keep up with. They tried to erase you. You became unforgettable. They tried to watch you secretly. You became unhideable. They tried to dim you. You became fluorescent. And it burns them that you're still breathing, still pushing, still refusing to shut up. You weren't deleted. You were underestimated. And now they're terrified they got it wrong. You're living a comeback arc that shouldn't even be possible. You're proof that some people don't need permission to exist. They claim existence. People like you don't vanish. People like you don't fade. People like you don't die quietly in the records. People like you echo. People like you linger. People like you survive the deletion process. So if your name still triggers alarms, good. Let it. Because the world is slowly realizing you're not someone they can erase. You're someone they'll have to reckon with. Now lean in, because it gets darker. People keep acting confused about you. How are you still here? Didn't life take you out already? They don't get you, because you're not built. Like people who collapse when life sneezes on them. You're the kind who gets flattened and comes back with a pulse so loud it scares the room. And the twist? You don't brag about it. You don't walk around with a sign saying, "I survived hell." You just show up like nothing happened, even though the wounds almost swallowed you whole. That's what freaks people out. Most want applause for surviving a rainy day. You walk around with the weight of collapsed worlds on your shoulders and still don't complain. You were declared non-existent, and you kept going like that stamp meant nothing. You moved like a ghost who refused to disappear. And if they truly thought you didn't matter, why is your name still in rooms you've never walked into? Why is it cross-checked, highlighted, whispered with that "be careful" tone? Because even the world that erased you knows the truth. You're a disruption, a threat to the narrative. A secret they tried and failed to bury. You weren't built for small talk and safe routines. You're built with something jagged, something uncooperative, something that refuses to mirror everyone else's cardboard existence. That's why they tried to delete you. Not physically, but emotionally, socially, psychologically. Remove you from roles you deserved. Erase you from spaces you earned. Bury you under the noise of people who haven't lived a fraction of your pain. But here you are. You didn't grow up with comfort. You didn't get safety nets or the "it'll be okay" childhood. You grew up in survival mode. You learned chaos before you could spell your own name. So of course you became someone the world watches. People raised in fire don't walk. Like people raised in warm rooms, you walk with instinct, intuition, awareness that scares people. They expected you to stay in the story they wrote for you. The quiet story, the failing story, the disappearing story, but you flipped the script. You weren't supposed to rise. You weren't supposed to demand better. You weren't supposed to matter, and yet you did. That's why your name still pings. That's why your energy rattles cages. That's why your presence gets monitored. Because you're not a civilian. You're a wild card, an anomaly, a force of willpower, trauma, and ambition, held together by grit they'll never understand. Every system that underestimated you is already regretting it. You weren't supposed to be this strong. You weren't supposed to rebuild. You weren't supposed to come back with fire. But you did. You're too big for your old life now. Too smart for the lies. Too awake for manipulation. Too dangerous for those who tried to bury you. Let them watch, because nothing terrifies people more than someone who was erased and still refuses to die. And now for the part no one talks about. The part that actually built you. People only respect you after they realize they can't kill you off. They don't see your worth when you're quiet. They don't see your strength when you're crawling. But the moment you rise, suddenly everyone becomes a witness. Suddenly your presence sounds like a threat notice. You were declared non-existent in 2019. So why is the FBI still tracking your name? Because you broke the timeline they wrote for you. You weren't supposed to rise after trauma. You weren't supposed to survive betrayal, abandonment, and emotional starvation. But you didn't just survive. You ate the pain and turned it into fuel. You became relapse-proof. You became the signal the system can't scrub. Every time they tried to compress you, you expanded. Every time they limited you, you outgrew the limit. Every time they silenced you, you spoke louder. They declared you done. You restarted the whole narrative. Your strength is quiet and terrifying. You don't brag. You don't flex. You just keep coming back. That's why your name is tracked, because you shouldn't still be walking, fighting, breathing. And yet here you are. You know what really terrifies people? Your capacity to heal, to rebuild, to rise without any help, to turn dead ends into entrances, to get up when everything told you to stay down. You are non-existent on file, but too real to deny. The world doesn't watch the weak. It watches anomalies, glitches, pattern breakers. People who were supposed to be statistics but became threats to the narrative. Your survival embarrasses quitters. Your growth exposes pretenders. Your resilience invalidates excuses. That's why your name pings. Because you're a reminder, a warning, a contradiction. A glitch the universe can't delete. And the best part? You haven't even reached your final form yet.